Esteemed members of the Galactic Defense Council, senior xenobiologist Trez Vexlan adjusted his respirator with an anxious click. Thank you for assembling on such short notice. I assure you, the discoveries I'm about to share warrant the disruption of your crucial agendas. The 7 council members, each representing a major galactic power, shifted in their gravity-compensated seats, their expressions varying from irritation to mild inquisitiveness. Only Admiral Pex of the Centauri Collective appeared genuinely intrigued, leaning forward on her membranous appendages. Get on with it, Vexlan, rumbled Councillor GRA, his crystalline exoskeleton shimmering under the council chamber lights. Some of us have tangible threats to address. Trez suppressed what humans would recognize as a chuckle. That's precisely why I'm here, Councillor, because none of you grasp what a genuine threat resembles. The recessed projector at the chamber's center sprang to life, displaying a rotating image of an apparently unremarkable bipedal species. Behold, Homo sapiens, designation, humans, origin, Sol system, third planet. Trez paused for dramatic effect. Classification, Deathworld species. Hazard class, 5. A murmur swept through the council. Class 5 was practically unheard of. Surely you jest, Councillor, Nix Vora of the Proxima Conclave chirped, mandibles clicking rapidly. But they appear so delicate. No natural weaponry, no armor, minimal sensory capabilities. They're practically helpless. That's what the Creel invasion force surmised, too, Trez retorted, retrieving footage of what seemed to be a rudimentary human settlement. This is from their unsuccessful incursion on the human colony world LV-426. Observe. The footage depicted Creel warriors, 8 feet tall, armored like tanks, with multiple weapon-bearing limbs, being systematically taken apart by smaller, softer-looking humans wielding crude projectile weapons. And was that a farming tool? The Creel dispatched 6 warships. Not one returned. Not one, Trez emphasized each word, tapping his foreclaw against the podium. But, Admiral Pex interjected, her voice like flowing fluid, the Creel are hardly the tactical masterminds they claim to be. Perhaps they simply underestimated. They underestimated nothing, Trez nearly yelled, his professional composure faltering. They adhered to standard invasion protocols for a pre-FTL civilization. The humans should have been conquered within days. Trez paused to regain his composure, his chromatophores gradually reverting to their neutral blue hue. Look, I've studied 17 warrior species in my career. The Vorge with their death spores, the Tantari hive mind soldiers, even the silicon-based drones who can endure hard vacuum. None of them, none, frighten me like humans do. Councillor GRA snorted, a harsh sound like grinding stones. You sound like you've developed an irrational phobia, xenobiologist. Perhaps you should recuse yourself from. With all due respect, Councillor, Trez cut in, his voice dropping to what humans might call a growl. I've spent the last 10 cycles studying humans in their natural habitat. I've observed their training regimens, their recreational activities, which are often indistinguishable from combat preparation, and even their bizarre mating rituals. What I've discovered has convinced me that we are confronting the most perilous species in the known galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Even the perpetually dismissive GRA seemed to be considering Trez's words. Very well, then, Admiral Pex finally spoke. You'd better elucidate precisely what renders these humans so terrifying. Trez's mouthparts curled into what passed for a smile in his species. Oh, I thought you'd never ask. The physical paradox. Trez tapped his control pad, and the hologram shifted to display a human skeletal structure. First, let's address the physical paradox of humans. On the surface, they appear to be what we'd categorize as a soft species. No exoskeleton, no natural armor, relatively weak musculature compared to, say, a Draken warrior. Admiral Pex raised an eye ridge. So? They sound like the perfect conquest target. Ah, that's what everyone thinks, Trez exclaimed with an unsettling laugh. Their physical design is simultaneously their greatest vulnerability and their greatest asset. The hologram shifted to show a human lifting something that appeared to be several times its body weight. Their endoskeletal structure, while seemingly fragile, allows for extraordinary mechanical advantage. But here's where it gets bizarre, humans can fracture their skeletal components and continue fighting. Preposterous, scoffed Counselor GRA. I wish it were, Traz replied, queuing up footage from what appeared to be a human sporting event. This human athlete snapped his lower limb completely in half. Watch what he does next. The council collectively flinched as the human, clearly in extreme distress, continued to compete for several more minutes before collapsing. Their pain tolerance alone is nightmarish, Traz continued. But it gets worse. Humans have this concept called adrenaline, a chemical they produce that temporarily transforms them into something else. The hologram displayed comparison charts of human physical capabilities under normal conditions versus under stress. When threatened, frightened, or enraged, they can temporarily increase their strength by up to 300%, their reaction time decreases by 25%, their blood clotting accelerates. It's like they have an internal emergency system that transforms them into killing machines. Counselor Nix Vora's wings fluttered nervously. Many species have emergency physical responses, xenobiologist. This hardly seems. With all due respect, Counselor, Traz interrupted, most species with emergency responses sacrifice cognitive function to achieve them. Humans maintain full tactical awareness, and sometimes they gain cognitive function during stress. They call it hyperfocus. It's terrifying. The hologram shifted again, this time showing humans in various extreme environments. And then there's their adaptability, Traz said, his voice dropping to a horrified whisper. Humans can survive temperature ranges that would kill most species. They can go without water for days, without food for weeks. They lose limbs and replace them with artificial ones that work better than the originals. Traz paused to let that sink in. But the most disturbing thing, humans deliberately subject themselves to physical stress to become stronger. They call it exercise in training. They intentionally damage their muscle tissue so it will regrow more powerful. What kind of species chooses pain to become more deadly? Admiral Pex leaned forward. So they're tougher than they look. Many species are. You don't understand, Traz said, frustration evident in his voice. Humans are physiological statistical outliers in every category that matters for warfare. They're not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most durable, but they're unnaturally good at all of these things simultaneously, and they constantly push their limits. The image changed to show humans climbing a sheer cliff face with minimal equipment. They do this for fun. The chemical weapons factory. Traz gestured dramatically, and the hologram shifted to display a cross-section of human internal organs. Now, let's talk about what really keeps me up at night. Humans are walking chemical weapons factories, Traz announced, highlighting the human digestive system. Their entire gastrointestinal tract is filled with billions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses. They live inside humans, and humans need them to survive. Counselor GRA made a sound of disgust. So they're parasite-ridden. Hardly impressive. No, you misunderstand, Traz said, his voice rising in pitch. It's a symbiotic relationship. These microorganisms help humans digest food, produce vitamins, and even fight off dangerous pathogens. They've evolved to be living bioreactors. The hologram zoomed in to show microscopic images of human bacteria. And that's just the beginning. Humans consume substances that would kill most sentient species for pleasure. Traz clicked through a series of images. This is called coffee. It contains a neurotoxin called caffeine. This is alcohol. It literally poisons their nervous system. This is capsaicin. It creates a burning sensation in their mouths, and they deliberately seek it out. Admiral Pex blinked slowly. Are you suggesting they're immune to toxins? Worse. They develop tolerances to them. The more they consume, the more they need to achieve the same effect, Traz's respirator whirred with his accelerated respiration. They can train their bodies to withstand increasingly potent toxins. There are documented cases of humans surviving doses of radiation, venom, and chemical agents that should be universally fatal. The council chamber fell silent as Traz displayed footage of a human consuming something that made tears stream from its ocular organs while it appeared to be simultaneously in pain and enjoying itself. This human is voluntarily eating something so spicy it's causing physical distress for entertainment. They call it a challenge. Trez switched to another image showing humans in what appeared to be a smoke-filled room. And this, they deliberately inhale burning plant matter. It damages their respiratory system, introduces carcinogens into their bloodstream, and they still do it. Counselor Nix Vora's antennae drooped. Perhaps they're simply not intelligent enough to. They know it's harmful, Trez interjected. They've done extensive research on the negative effects. They put warning labels on the packages, and they continue anyway. Trez paused, allowing his chromatophores to display his distress before continuing more calmly. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Humans have weaponized their knowledge of chemistry in ways that even the Morbidian death cult would find excessive. They've created chemical agents that can kill on contact with skin, biological weapons that target specific genetic markers, radioactive materials that poison gradually over decades. He displayed a timeline of human weapons development. And they developed all of this before achieving spaceflight, before meeting any external threats. They created world-ending weapons just to use against themselves. Trez's voice dropped to a whisper. What do you think they'll do when they meet us? The psychological edge. Trez took a moment to compose himself, his respirator whirring softly as he switched to the next set of holographic displays. Physical resilience and toxin tolerance are concerning, yes, but it's the human mind that truly makes them the galaxy's most dangerous predator, Trez stated, bringing up neural scan comparisons. Their brains are unremarkable in size relative to body mass, but the neural density and connectivity patterns are unique. The hologram displayed a rotating human brain with highlighted regions. Humans possess what they call determination, a psychological state that defies logical self-preservation, Trez explained. When a normal, rational species encounters a superior force, they retreat. When faced with impossible odds, they surrender. When defeated repeatedly, they accept domination. Trez spat bitterly. Humans, they call repeated failure practice. New footage appeared showing humans attempting seemingly impossible physical feats, failing repeatedly, suffering injuries, and continuing regardless. This human broke 16 bones over 7 years attempting to perfect this maneuver on a primitive transportation device called a skateboard, Trez noted, pointing to a human flipping through the air. It conferred no survival advantage. It was purely for fun. Counselor GRA shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps they simply lack the intelligence to recognize futility. If only. Trez exclaimed. Their pattern recognition abilities are excellent. They know they're likely to fail. They know they might be injured or killed, but they proceed anyway. They have a saying, where there's a will, there's a way. This isn't optimism, it's a psychological weapon they use against themselves and others. Admiral Pex leaned forward. What do you mean, against others? Psychological warfare. Humans are masters of it, Trez said, displaying historical battle footage. These drastically outnumbered humans continued fighting against overwhelming odds, not because they could win, but because they could inspire others with their sacrifice. They call it holding the line or buying time. They knowingly marched to their deaths to advance collective goals. Trez's voice rose with barely contained anxiety. What species willingly sacrifices individuals without genetic imperatives, like the hive races? It's voluntary. They choose to die for abstract concepts like freedom and country. The council members exchanged worried glances as Trez continued. But the most disturbing psychological trait is their ability to form pack bonds with anything. Trez displayed images of humans with various animals. They form emotional attachments to other species. They bring predators into their homes and treat them as family members. They name maintenance machines and mourn when these machines are damaged. Counselor Nix Vora's wings buzzed nervously. Many species domesticate animals, xenobiologist. Not like this, Trez countered, showing humans risking their lives to save animals during natural disasters. If they will die to protect non-human creatures they bonded with, and here's the truly terrifying part, they can form these bonds with enemies. The display shifted to historical footage showing former human adversaries becoming allies. These two human nations fought a devastating global conflict, inflicting millions of casualties on each other. 70 years later, close allies. They went from dropping atomic weapons on each other to cultural exchange programs. Traz's voice became almost frantic. Do you understand the implications? You can't defeat humans permanently. Even if you conquer them, they'll either 1. Keep fighting until they win through sheer determination, or 2. Befriend you and gradually assimilate your culture until you can't remember why you were fighting them in the first place. The hologram showed humans in various celebratory settings with different cultural markers. They collect cultures. They find aspects of other societies they admire and absorb them: food, art, philosophy, technology. They take it all and make it their own. It's mimetic warfare on a scale no other species practices. Traz paused, allowing his chromatophores to pulse a deep, warning purple. The Graxian Empire thought they could enslave a human colony. Within 3 generations, the human slaves had learned the Graxian language, intermarried with their captors, and fundamentally transformed Graxian society from within. The empire didn't fall to rebellion, it was changed so completely that rebellion became unnecessary. Admiral Pex's bioluminescence dimmed noticeably. You're suggesting humans are mimetic predators? Precisely, Traz exclaimed. They don't just conquer with weapons, they conquer with ideas. The test case. I know what you're thinking, Traz said, his voice quieter now. You're thinking I'm exaggerating the threat, that I've developed an irrational fear of a pre-FTL species that hasn't even unified its own planet. So allow me to present Exhibit A, the Rigelian Incident. The chamber darkened as a new hologram appeared, a beautiful blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. 7 cycles ago, the Rigelian Science Directorate sent a research vessel to Sol 3, Earth, to conduct a standard xenosociological survey. Captain Vorkrell was a veteran of first contact protocols with 42 successful missions. His crew was experienced. Their technology was vastly superior to human capabilities. Traz's voice took on a grim tone as he continued. The Rigelians followed standard procedure. They abducted human specimens from isolated areas, conducted non-invasive examinations, and returned them with modified memories to prevent cultural contamination. Admiral Pex nodded. Standard procedure, indeed. Yes, until they grabbed a human named Jack Reyes. Traz pulled up an image of an unremarkable-looking human male, a wilderness survival instructor who had previously served in something called the Navy SEALs, an elite aquatic combat unit. Counselor Nix Vora's mandibles clicked curiously. What happened? This one human woke up during the examination. He should have been unconscious. The sedative dose was calculated based on human body mass standards. Traz's respirator worked overtime. This human, he pretended to remain sedated while assessing his surroundings. The hologram showed security footage from the Rigelian ship, the human lying motionless on an examination table, eyes slightly open, watching the movements of the alien researchers. When left momentarily unattended, he freed himself, fashioned a weapon from medical equipment, and proceeded to. Traz paused, struggling to maintain composure. He systematically incapacitated the medical staff before making his way to the bridge. The security footage continued, showing the human moving with terrifying efficiency through the vessel, using the ship's own systems against the crew. The council watched in stunned silence. Within 37 minutes, the single human had control of a Class 4 interstellar research vessel, Traz exclaimed, his voice cracking. But that's not the worst part. There's worse? Counselor GRA rumbled, his crystalline structure emanating distress patterns. Instead of killing the crew, he kept them alive. He interrogated them, learning about ship operations, galactic politics, and our technological capabilities. Then he did something truly unpredictable. The hologram showed the human at the ship's communication array. He sent a message to his own species, revealing the existence of galactic civilization along with all the intelligence he'd gathered. Then he piloted the vessel back to Earth, landing it in a region called Nevada, before releasing the Rigelian crew. Traz paused, letting the implications sink in. Within hours, the humans had mobilized global resources to study the ship. Within days, they had reverse-engineered critical components. Within weeks, they had replicated our universal translator technology. Admiral Pex's bioluminescence pulsed with alarm. But our technology is designed to be tamper-proof, encrypted. Yes, Trez laughed maniacally. The humans didn't crack the encryption, they just worked around it. They didn't understand how it functioned, so they simply copied it structurally and applied their own power sources and control systems. It was like watching a primitive species rebuild a quantum computer using rocks and sticks and somehow making it work. The hologram showed humans in white coats swarming over pieces of alien technology, their faces lit with what could only be described as maniacal glee. The Regelian Directorate sent a stealth vessel to assess the situation. By then, humans had already militarized the research. They detected the stealth vessel, which should have been impossible with their technology level, and attempted to communicate with it. What did they want? Asked Nix Vora. They proposed a trade agreement, Trez said, sounding both horrified and impressed. Not cowering in fear, not preparing for war. They wanted to negotiate. They offered limited Earth resources in exchange for technological knowledge. Trez looked around the chamber, noting the Council's shocked expressions. The Regelians enacted the Galactic Quarantine Protocol immediately. That was 7 cycles ago. My sources indicate that humans now have functional prototype FTL drives. They're coming, Council members, and they're bringing their determination, their adaptability, and their infuriating ability to accomplish the impossible. The recommendation. Trez allowed a moment of heavy silence to settle over the Council chamber. The gravity of his presentation had clearly affected the delegates. Even the typically dismissive Councillor Gra appeared troubled, his crystal form reflecting anxious patterns of light. So, Admiral Pex finally spoke, her voice unnaturally steady. What is your recommendation, xenobiologist Vexlin? Preemptive military action? Full quarantine? Trez let out what humans would recognize as a sigh, his respirator whistling softly. That's just it. I've spent the last 3 cycles running simulations on every possible approach to the human problem, and I've come to a conclusion that I find disturbing. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We shouldn't attempt to contain them at all. The chamber erupted in overlapping exclamations of disbelief. Silence, commanded High Counselor Zulak, speaking for the first time. The ancient Valaxian's voice, though quiet, carried immense authority. Let him explain. Thank you, High Counselor, Trez continued. My simulations indicate that any attempt to suppress, contain, or control humanity has a 94.3% probability of backfiring catastrophically. The more aggressively we move against them, the more unified and determined they become. The hologram displayed a series of probability curves and outcome scenarios. Observe, in scenarios where we attempt military containment, humans reverse engineer our weapons and develop countermeasures within astonishingly brief timeframes. In scenarios where we attempt cultural isolation, they become more curious and invest more resources into space exploration. Trez brought up another simulation showing human expansion patterns. Even more concerning, humans are remarkably sensitive to what they perceive as injustice. If they discover that we've been deliberately preventing their advancement, their cultural narrative immediately shifts to one of righteous rebellion against tyrannical oppressors. Their entertainment media has prepared them for this scenario for generations. Nick Vora's antennae twitched nervously. Then what do you propose? Integration, Trez said simply. Controlled, carefully managed integration into galactic society. The chamber grew so quiet that Trez could hear the soft hum of the environmental systems. You can't be serious, Counselor Gra finally rumbled. After everything you've just shown us, you want to invite these creatures into our civilization? Consider the alternatives, Trez replied, bringing up new simulation data. If we attempt to destroy them, we might succeed, but at tremendous cost. The survivors would never forget, never forgive, and would dedicate themselves to our destruction for generations. He switched to another projection. If we contain them, they'll eventually break free and be justifiably angry when they do. But he highlighted a third scenario. If we welcome them, acknowledge their achievements, and give them a stake in galactic stability. The projection showed a remarkable pattern of peaceful expansion and cultural exchange. Humans crave acceptance. Their social structures reward cooperation. They're hardwired to form alliances. Yes, they're dangerous, but they're dangerous adversaries and dangerous allies. I propose we make them the latter. Trez stepped back from his console, his chromatophores settling into a calm blue pattern. My formal recommendation is the establishment of a human integration task force. We approach Earth openly, with respect, and offer them limited membership in the Galactic Council, with a path to full membership based on demonstrated cooperation. Admiral Pex leaned forward. And you believe they'll accept such terms? They'll negotiate hard, Trez said with a laugh. They'll push for more technology access, more representation. Let them win some concessions. It satisfies their competitive instincts. But yes, they'll accept. Humans value being at the table almost pathologically. This is unprecedented, muttered High Counselor Zulak. No species has been offered council membership before achieving independent FTL travel. No species has ever warranted such an exception. Trez replied, but consider this, would you rather have humans as partners with restrictions or as enemies with nothing to lose? He displayed one final image, Earth at night, its surface twinkling with billions of lights. They call their world the pale blue dot. They see it as small and fragile in the cosmic ocean. Yet from this tiny world has emerged a species that could potentially reshape our entire galaxy.